I was so confused because I was still like a teenager, right? Having like a baby. I didn't know anything. I wanted to be a daughter. I didn't want to be a mom.
Yeah,
It was a
sure.
lot of pressure and with no guidance and direction.
Welcome to the I'm Not Alone podcast, Grace Kelly.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's our pleasure. And to say hi to Linda.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, Grace Kelly. It's so much fun that we've been able to get together today.
Thank you.
But you have a story that relates to the Pregnancy Care Center and what they do, correct?
Yes, I do.
So you volunteer there now, I take it.
Grace is part of our team that helps raise awareness of the support that's available for those facing
So
unexpected.
we want to talk about that a little bit, but first maybe we'll talk about why this kind of work is special to you first. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Okay. So I became pregnant when I was 17 years old. And back then it was really hard. And I'm originally from Brazil. So I moved to Canada 4 years ago. And going back to the 17 years old. So I got pregnant, had zero support from my family. I was raised without my parents. So my aunt and my uncle, they were the one that was looking after me. And when I got pregnant, they told me, now, like, what are you going to do to your life? Now you ruined your career. You're not going to have opportunity out there because you're going to be a mom with the kid, you know. So thank God it didn't even cross my mind to do a abortion. They didn't pressure me to do abortion, but it's almost like it came up in the conversation. So the subject, it came up in the conversation, but then got nothing as a pressure. They gave me the opportunity to say, you know what, now it's the thing. You're pregnant, and what are you gonna do? And I said, well, I will live with the dad, right? I will live with the guy. And so my aunt, which I call my mom, she said, well, you don't have to go. You can stay. And as soon as the baby is born, you can give the baby to the dad. And I said, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do to my baby what my mom did to me. So my choice was to live with the dad. So I lived with him with his parents. So with my in-laws back then, they're like God sent those people to help me, because besides like my family, they did zero support. So I was raised without love and support, and it was like a crazy environment. It was like very abusive, and with drugs and alcohol, all of that. So God blessed me with that. In my mind, I think, of course, I had sex without condom and I got pregnant. But besides that, I think God uses that just to promote His beautiful name. And so when I was living with my in-laws, they supported me, they helped me, they loved me. They showed me love that I never had with my own family, right? So 5 years after living with the dad of my son, we broke up because he was unfaithful. And even though his family, he was supporting me, they said, Grace, I want you to stay. Like, I want you to stay, don't go. But I was so confused because I was still like a teenager, right? Having like a baby. I didn't know anything. I wanted to be a daughter. I didn't want to be a mom.
Yeah,
It was
sure.
a lot of pressure and with no guidance and direction.
I want to unpack a little bit more about the time when you were, when your vulnerability was cared for in a way. So you're extremely vulnerable. You're 17 years old. You're pregnant. That's got to be the most vulnerable thing in the world, I think. A woman without a family who's pregnant and at a very young age, before maybe you ever worked a day in your life.
Yeah. So my first job, actually, I used to be a beautician, so I was doing like mani-pedis, and so like my financial source, it was coming from that activity. But I mean, it was not a lot of money, right? Like, but
But share with the listeners here. So you're 17 years old, and I know you have a lot of parts to this story, okay? But to me, what's interesting from the listener perspective here is never a question about having an abortion. Very young girl, vulnerable, no support network except the father's family. I mean, that's a shot in the dark. I mean, to me, tell me a little bit more about how that felt. Like, what was it like to pack your stuff and move in with those people?
Okay.
What was that like?
So, from what I remember, I was finishing my high school.
Mm-hmm.
And so my teacher in high school, she loved me so much that she offered me an internship.
Okay.
So she said to me, Grace, when you finish your high school, you're going to go directly to university. But she didn't know that I was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had to tell her that I was pregnant, and she said to me, well, you still can do it, you know. There is like you can put a break right now, or you can keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I told I think now is the time for me to have a break, to have a rest, right? So even though in my mind I knew that I could do it in the future,
Mm-hmm.
right? But at that moment I wanted to be 100% taking care of that baby,
Okay.
right? And in my mind, the way I acknowledged, the way I thought about it, I wanted to give to my baby what I didn't have.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be the best mom, the mom that I didn't had and never had. And
But where does this come from? So there's a couple things that are very interesting to me. One, you're very young, very vulnerable. You don't have your own apartment. You don't have a job. You're in high school. Okay. And then two, you never thought once for 1 minute that you'd want to have an abortion.
never,
Not even for a minute.
never.
So tell me where that comes from.
This love for God. Even though, like, again, I didn't know much about Christ. I heard about Christ, the guy who died on a cross. Poor guy, he died on a cross. But, but, okay, God. Let's put the God, the Father,
Sure.
right? And, like, thank goodness for my neighbors, because they are the ones that introduced the gospel to me, right?
Sure.
And I was already, like, feeling guilty that I had sex before getting married, and now I'm pregnant, and now I'm gonna do abortion. No, and like it was something that like it didn't even cross my mind, and I wanted to embrace it.
But here's what. So you
Can I just interject here? Grace, you had mentioned something to me about a decision that your mother had made that had an influence on you. Can you, I don't know whether you feel comfortable talking about that?
Absolutely. Thanks for reminding me of that, because sometimes, like my life, there was like I was telling Linda, there was like many phases and things that I need to going back and forth to kind of like remind me why did I done that, made that decision, because something back then happened. Okay, so when my mom got pregnant, she was 16, and my great grandmother, she wanted to help her and protect her, because my grandmother didn't have a good relationship with my mother. So they were like fighting, they didn't like each other. So when my mom got pregnant, my grandmother, she wanted to beat her up so she would have an abortion. So I wouldn't be here if my great grandmother didn't.
Did you know that before you were 17, when you were 17?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. Yeah. So so now it totally makes sense. If I didn't know that story, I don't know if I would think in the same way, not choosing an abortion. But for me, to hear the story that your grandmother, she wanted to beat your mom up because she wanted to make baby go. So, okay.
That's a lot of negative energy there, actually.
And I think that underlying, and as you hear more of Grace's story, just an incredible value for the significance of human life.
That's what I'm hearing here, and what I'm wondering is, at the age of 17, without supporting family, it's like you hear from religion that religion is taught to people, or that their values are taught to them, but it's like almost you were shown the opposite of those values and chose to go against them in a sense.
Yes, I wanted to do it differently. I wanted to be different. First of all, like. From my mom's side, that's all I know from my mom's side. I don't know much about my dad's side. So from my mom, like they were like drug addicts and alcoholics, and growing up in that environment, I told myself like I want you to be different, and I believe maybe that passion, it comes from the Word of God, that put something inside of me because I was like empty, right? Like as a child, you need support, you need guidance, you need like you're like a ball of those, you need to be molded,
Sure.
right?
Yes.
So
But you were molded by the outside negative forces. It was like an anti-molding for you.
yeah.
Nobody was caring for you and molding you and helping you become a woman. You were just on your own. But you had all this negativity around you that kind of, but you chose to walk to the light rather than the dark.
Yeah, 100%.
Where did you get the strength for that?
I believe maybe my teacher also, she was my mentor, going to school, again, when you don't have a good background, a good foundation. So when you go to school, you're vulnerable, like you said.
Sure.
And I guess like this teacher, she helped me in a way of telling me you're worth it, you're beautiful, you're smart, you can do it. And even though I wanted to be exactly a teacher, but I wanted to do something with science and things just because I wanted to help other women. I wanted to encourage other people as that woman did to me, And I graduated after and I became a biologist. And she was the one that inspired me. And I told her, like, you saved my life. You're the one that were out there for me. And you're not even like a blood of me, right?
Yeah,
like
sure.
you're not my family, but she became part of me. And every day going to school and listening to that woman telling me that I'm worth it and going home and saying, you're stupid, or this, or that, it was a big change.
Well, I think the woman's right and the other people are wrong, first of all, 100%.
And the significance
Sure.
of people in
Supporting.
our lives. Because we heard from Grace not only this very significant teacher that's able to speak life into her, affirm her in truths, she is valuable, she's smart, she's got a future. And then neighbors that would just be there, that would be supporting her and taking her to church.
Yes.
An aunt that also valued her and was able to say, no, you're family, I'm going to take care of you, even in the difficulties. But then there's been all sorts of people that have come along. And it just seems that those individuals have been part of that community of support that have made such a difference. And they didn't help you just during that time of pregnancy, but you found that when you've needed support, there's been special people that have encouraged you all along the way.
Yes, 100%.
And is that what the Pregnancy Care Center does for vulnerable women now?
And I'm so glad to be part of this, and tell the world and tell women out there is a hope for you. There is chances to get better, and that's not the end. Like getting pregnant, it's not the end. It's just the beginning. The beautiful journey that life is bringing to you.
Sure. I you know what I've seen for all pregnancies bring fear and uncertainty, and babies bring joy and happiness.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Seriously,
It's every time it's the same thing. With with various women at different points, they all come and they say, I was very scared, I was nervous, I was rejected, I was vulnerable, I was pushed out, I was asked to leave, all this stuff.
But let me tell you, fear didn't even cross my mind. No. I was happy, delight, thinking that baby will give me the opportunity to have a family. So being with his dad and being with his family, for me was like, wow. So this is what family's all about.
Yeah, sure.
Right? So if I didn't have that baby, I don't know if I would be here today.
Sure.
Right? So I made the right choice.
I think you made a right choice too.
Michael, we've talked about this before, how oftentimes people in society will say, your life will be over, you've ruined your future. Even the response that you initially received from your family, your life is going to be over. And it's just not true.
Agreed.
We have met with so many individuals that have found that the pregnancy has been a real turning point in their lives. It's been a time of motivation. It's been an opportunity where they've been able to receive support where maybe they weren't either needing it or weren't open to it before.
And I don't think that's a women-only thing. I think a lot of the men we've talked to feel the same way as that. Is that it's like a wake-up call. It's like, hey, you've been having this free, thing, and where you're with a woman and you get to have sex with her, but there's no cost to it or anything like that. And all of a sudden it's like, no, you can have a beautiful family, and there's wonderful things in that too, which are associated with that woman that she can give you, and then you can give her support as well. And I think it's a theme through the various men we've talked to as well, that wake-up call, or that, realizing that, hey, like women are the source of life.
100%. Yeah. And that's why I felt
The source of family.
yeah, and God gave me that gift of embracing a little one inside of me, and right, like, and come up and like, wow, He gave me the power to do this, and now what I'm gonna do with it, like, I'm gonna embrace, I'm gonna love, I'm gonna take care of, I'm gonna give as best as I can, right, to
Wow.
make that little one happy, right.
So you're 17, you have your child, you're living now, and then what happens after that? Do you go back to university? What's
Yes,
the
I did.
path? Okay.
Okay, so I believe it was 7 or 8 years after.
Okay.
I wanted to go back to university.
So you're
and I said,
25 now.
now?
No.
I
when
mean,
you,
back
when
then.
You, when you
I
decided to
wish.
re-engage in your education.
Yes. So I always had that passion about science and biology. So
Sure.
that teacher, she planted the seed,
Wonderful
and
teachers in our lives. Yeah.
right. And I said, wow, I want to be like her. I
Okay.
want to do with her, right? So and then I'd register myself on, we call like you have like almost like examination test that you take.
Okay.
It's not about here in Canada. Like you kind of like pay, and then you wait 6 months after. If you want to start it in September, you have to register in January or something like that. Brazil doesn't work like that. So you take an examination test. If your grades are great, just you can move it forward. If you don't, just try it again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
So I was so confident, and I was like, this is the time. I really want to do this. And I took the test and I passed it, and I was like, my gosh, I'm gonna start. Like, it was like I've done a week before, and the next week it was like already starting it.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, thrilled, but at the same time like concerned, because like, what I'm gonna do now, going to university with this little one. He was not that little. He was 6, 7. But I remember, again, my in-laws, they were there. They said to me, Grace, we're going to take care of him, and you can go back to school. But it was a little bit hard, because going back to school and working at the same time and taking care of a baby at the same time, like it was a little bit of challenging, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and meanwhile, my son got sick. So he had a really rare disease. It was like a blood. It was like his immune system attacking his system.
Mm-hmm.
So it was right at the beginning of my first period at university, and I remember stopping everything that I was doing, because I had to quit my job to be at university and taking care of one. I had to make decisions and choose what I would gonna do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was overwhelmed, and then I think, God, like, what I'm gonna do now, right? I need to make a decision, and so I prayed and I said, Lord, I really, really want to commit it to this, and job, it's an issue right now because I need the money, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need the money because we need to live, but please, like, use you can do impossible things become possible, and you can use people, and you can do things that I don't know, but what I'm gonna do now. So I prayed and I went home, and my in-laws, they told me, Grace, don't worry, we covered, you are covered. We're gonna take care of the child, we're gonna help you whatever you need, just keep moving forward. So, and also that time, that disease or whatever that my son had, it was like 6 months intense. It was hard. And that time, my family, they came back to me, and they started like praying with me, and they say, Grace, because if that disease would come chronic, he would have leukemia.
Okay.
So I believe that time, at that point, something happened that to bring everybody together. So we wanted all my family and all my in-laws, they were all like combined, and they all helped me. And I still don't understand what happened back then, but it was good, and I passed through it. And 4 years later, I graduated, and I can show you the pictures. I have pictures here after, and it was like, to be in that pod and sing the national anthem to Brazil from Brazil. And I was expecting someone from my family to come and see me because, I was the first from my mom's side just to finish university and graduate and everything. So I was like waiting and looking and waiting. And the last minute of the anthem thing, my cousin, she come along and she stood right there and she clapped for me.
That's
So
nice.
it was really, really important to me.
Sure.
So all the phases of my life, again, like God been using people. He has been using people come alongside and I don't understand, but I guess like I'm keeping moving forward, right? So if I did it, everyone can do it. I think women out there, if they're pregnant, just respect your time and rest and taking care of the baby and plan your future also. Like when you make plans, it makes you excited. It makes you it gives you the hope, right? Because if I'm pregnant right now and I don't have any support, I don't have anything in my life will be this, like, no, surround yourself with good people, surround yourself with godly people, ask for help, ask for support, because sometimes we tended to isolate ourselves and, oh, now I'm sad, I'm this, I'm that, but there is so much out there that you can't reach the potential to ask, right? So just ask and embrace it.
And women out there that are pregnant, they can reach out to the Pregnancy Care Center.
Absolutely. We exist so that no woman needs to feel alone during an unexpected pregnancy. We really want women and men to thrive. We want them to thrive without feeling that they're stuck with just one option of terminating a pregnancy. We want them to be able to see that there's lots of options. They can get support if they're looking at an adoption plan.
They can come up with a plan.
They can come up with a plan.
As Grace says, come up with a plan. Talk to people that have been through it before and know what they're doing. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of women that are in these situations in different scenarios and different support levels.
And that's why we have individuals like Grace. They're able to talk at a personal level. They're able to listen. And we've got individuals that have been there. They know what they're talking about. And they can also speak looking back. They can remember, but they can also tell what's happened in their lives.
It's interesting how you said, that really struck me when you said it, have a plan. It calms you down, right? Like think through what's going to happen here. Think what is it that you actually want? Like I think a lot of people are just impelled towards something out of fear. Without ever asking themselves, what do I believe in? What do I want? Where are my values in all this? And take a second to speak to someone like Grace or someone like Linda that's been through this, that knows what's happening, that can really empathize with you, and is not going to judge you, but knows where you're at right now. I think that's what the Pregnancy Care Center does so well, and why I don't know if it's a business or a service. Your service is growing so quickly because people need it. They don't have the support networks around them. Maybe they never did. I don't know. But it seems like in the past there was support for pregnant, more support, or maybe there wasn't. I mean, maybe we're looking back and with rose-colored glasses. But coming up with a plan, asking yourself what it is you believe in, what it is you want. I think that's very important. Very wise words, Grace.
100%, and also it makes me think. So I had a fight with the dad, and I packed everything, but I only had my bed, my closet, and all my baby stuff. So I'm thinking, what am I thinking? I'm packing everything. I don't have a place yet to go, and I was trying to find the place, talking to people. Please help me. What do you think? This, and that, da da da. So I came to visit a house. It was a house, a beautiful house. And the backyard, it was like you could see like banana trees, and you could hear the chicken, the crackle like in the morning. And so I was in love with that house. And I said, God, this house is going to be mine. So I went talk to the man, and he said, well, I don't really know you. Can I do a contract for 1 year? I said, yeah, no problem. So I signed up the contract, and he said, well, let me ask first, do you have any sponsor, do you have any person that can sign up for you to be responsible for you? And I said, well, I don't really have, but I can look for it, right? So I didn't, nobody to support me. Who would support me? And they say, well, if I don't pay the bill, that person would pay the bill for me.
Sure.
Right? So I talked to my in-laws. I said, okay, sorry, I can't help you, but if you want to move out, this is now your life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so I went and talked to friends. So one person, she was almost like I call her my aunt. She was my best friend's mom.
Mm-hmm.
So she signed up for me. She said, "Grace, yeah, no problem. If you want a life out of that, a life what you have right now, I'm gonna give you the opportunity." So she signed up the paper, and when I got the house, it was empty. I only had the bed and the closet. So I was talking, and my son, "Mom, it's so empty out here, eh?" And I say, "Yeah, but don't worry, God will provide. We're gonna have more, right?" So while we were talking inside the house, the echo, like we were so empty. But it was a house, right? So talking to other people, that same woman that signed up the papers for me, she told me, "Grace, there is a couple, they're moving out and they're selling everything from their house. So this is the time for you to get the things, right?" So I got all the furnitures and everything. So it was so it feels to me that by the time that I made that decision to move out and live my life with dignity and give better life for my son, and again, make up the plan. So, okay, if I stay with this dad, there's nothing for me to gain here. There's nothing, no growth, no potential growth, and I can't not see God, there's nothing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So God saying, "Grace, just go. You gotta go. I will provide. Don't worry, go." So that new house, that new family, just me and my son, and the fear of, oh my God, if I need to work, so I need my hands, I need my legs, and to pay the bills. But every day I was reminding myself, you can do it. You can do it. And having the support again still from my in-laws, and seeing my child growing, and sometimes he would say, "Mom, we are so happy in here. This is our home," and for me looking back and to see oh my God, we made it, right? We made it. And meanwhile, after past the disease thing, 6 months after, he was fine. He did all the blood tests and everything. He was fine. I was kept going to university. So my second period, so I met my husband.
Mm-hmm.
So he's Canadian. So he was visiting Brazil, Rio. He loves Brazil, loves so much. And so he was visiting. He was an athlete for Canada. He was doing windsurf trainings and stuff.
Okay.
So we met, and back then I remember my heart, it was so pounding and solid like a rock. Like I said, this man is not gonna get my heart. I don't know his intentions. I don't want to be.
Before you move on to that, I want to say something, because you said something that really touched me, and you kept going. It was a great story, but she chose dignity. It wasn't given to her. She said, I kept my dignity, but you chose it in a way. You said, I'm going to have dignity.
And she chose a route that would, just honor, being true to herself, to recognize that she had value. There had been people speaking value into her life, but she needed to embrace that, that she was, that her life counted, that she did have a future. She did have a hope. And, life is going to have discouraging moments for everybody, whether you have an unexpected pregnancy or not. Sure. That's part of living in this world.
Absolutely.
But, staying focused, staying hopeful, staying on track, again, bringing around people, checking and consulting with people that...
the story has its details. Mm-hmm. Okay, it has its details. This happened, and then this happened, and this person helped me. And then I found this, and da-da-da. You hear these stories, right? But at the end of it, inside there's this force of, I'm worthy, I deserve... not deserve is the right word. I'm worthy of living a stable life. I'm worthy of love. My child is worthy. I am going to have dignity. It's given to me by God, not by man, in a way, right? And I heard that in your story, and I was waiting. You said it, and I was like, okay, I don't want to interrupt, because it was so good. The whole thing was so good, but you chose that, or you lived it, or something other than it being handed to you by somebody else.
There was something that was birthed, that had been that had been planted within you that was coming out.
Worthiness or something.
There was that
yes.
sense of belief that that there's a big God. That my life has significance in
Yes.
this world, and also this sense of trust. That there's a big trust to. There's been a lot of prayer that's been offered up back and forth, right?
Sure.
Prayer about your son, prayer about your housing, and some almost miraculous things that have come about.
Sure.
Health-wise, furniture, support, people to co-sign
Sure.
things. Those are part of the moving of forward and
Ask
believing.
and ye shall receive, seek and ye shall find, knock.
No, exactly.
Yeah,
And
it's
even though like the people, my family or the people from Brazil that knows my story, they look at me today and they say, wow. And they look my son and say, wow. Like it's beautiful to see
Sure.
that he's healthy and you're healthy and thank God like you find the man that loves you and loves your son. And again, it's not the end. Sometimes women, they feel insecure. Now I have I have a child from another man, and maybe a man is not going to accept me because I have. I think that is a statement, maybe like an old statement that it needs to be done. If a man really loves you, he will love whatever comes with you, right? So when I met my husband, we didn't even have a relationship or anything. We just, like friends. He told me his stories. I would tell him my story. And the very first day that we met, I told him, he's asking, can we go to the beach tomorrow? The weather's going to be nice and fun. I said, you know what? I'm sorry. I don't have time. I have a son and I need to go to university and I'm working. I don't have time for that. And he said, oh, cool. What's his name? Da, da, da. And I said, well, sorry, I don't have a time right now. So again, I was very focused on finish my university and have a path, a better career path, just to give a better future to my son.
One of the messages I'm hearing from you is that you believed in your own self-worth and your own dignity. People are attracted to that. That's attractive to people, whether you're a man or a woman. When someone's confident
And you
like
also
that.
knew where you were going, right?
Yes.
You knew where you were
Yes.
going. You were sticking with the plan.
Yes.
You were aware of the fact that love has costs, right?
Oh,
Love
yeah.
has costs. And you loved your son. You never doubted loving your son.
Yes.
You were willing to make... you sacrificed, in one sense, some of your freedoms by having him, right?
Yes.
But love does that, right? Love is willing to pour out into. And then you had a plan that you were going to want to also be the best mother and provide the best framework for him. So part of that involved you taking a look at your future and how you could provide a household that would provide him with stability and him with support as well. And also you recognize that your decisions were, and your keeping standards were also communicating and setting a framework for him. I think some of the things we've talked about is that your mother and your parents and your family didn't have some of those boundaries for you.
Yeah, it's
and
fascinating
you wanted to
how you've come
you wanted
to
to create
this.
those boundaries, right? You wanted to create a safe place for your son. You wanted to also communicate to him the importance of your values, and you wanted to communicate that not just through what you said, but how you lived.
True.
Can I ask you something about on that framework or on that line? So you said that you weren't going to let him get into your heart.
Mm-hmm.
She said that earlier in the show,
Yeah.
right? Like you were committed to not. No, you obviously felt the mutual attraction between the two of you, and you thought, no, I'm not walking this path again, or whatever. How did you allow yourself to become vulnerable again to love?
Because he was so persistent and loving and kind, and he showed me a different way of love that I never had it before. In its sense of, I thought because I had a child from another man, other men would not be attracted to me. You know, that's maybe the wrong of me, but that's what I thought back then. And for him, every time when he was talking to me, he would look at me in the eye. He would offer me his time, right? Most people, like most guys in Brazil, they would look at you as a piece of meat and do, like figured out everything. He would keep looking me in the eye. He would try to touch my hand, and I, like that's weird. Nobody touch my hand or anything like that, right? Like very engaging. and very like trying to know like what is up to that girl, right?
Yeah.
And he asked me one time, like, what is wrong with you? I said, nothing's wrong with me. What is wrong with you? Right? Like, nothing's wrong with me. So I believe he was very generous and very kind and very respectful. And every time that he would call me, he would, say me beautiful words. And he'd say, yes, you're a great mom. You're doing a great job. Like those encouraging words. And we met in 2010 in Brazil. So he told me, I'm going to come back for you because I want to know you more. And I said, don't do that. You live in Canada. Just be out there. There's many women, I'm here. It's fine. We can keep in contact, but it's fine. He said, no, I'm going to come back for you. And he came back. Wow. And he kept coming back. So we dated for 5 years. Mm-hmm. So he proposed to me in 2014, and I moved here in 2015. So after that long path, and even though, like, when I think about it, my son's dad didn't want to sign up the papers because he told me, like, oh, I already lost the woman. I don't want to lose you, la, la, la. And I said, you know what? Again, let me pray. Lord, if this man is the right man for me, you can do a miracle, you can do things happen and not. So if his man is the right man for me, make the dad sign up the papers. If everything would be smooth and nice, I would understand that you're in charge. But if that man is not a good man for me, Lord, I don't want to suffer again. I don't want to be feeling miserable again. If I would be feeling miserable, I'd rather be on my own. I'd rather just be focused on my path and, providing whatever. It was not a lot of money, but it was sufficient to make me happy and make my child happy. So I don't want more. It's fine. I'm comfortable right now. So within a week, the dad changed his mind, signed up the papers and everything. It was fine. And I was like, okay, this is the man. And, so we moved here in 2015, my son and I, and since then we again got embraced to a beautiful family, a beautiful Canadian family, and visiting Canada, going back and forth. The family, they said to me, Grace, it's so beautiful and unique to see the way you raised your child as a single mom and having love. How can you embrace? How can you put love out there when you don't have surround you? Where it come from? Where did all this love come from?
Yeah, you're a fountain of positive energy. It's really unbelievable, actually.
It comes from God. But actually, when I moved here, my first year, 2015, it was fine. 2016, it was really hard. So, and again, like every time when I look at my life, I think about it like as a video game. You have like light phases, easy phases, difficult, becoming harder and harder and harder. It's like, oh my gosh, okay. So now what is coming? What is next, right? So moved to Canada, got married. My son is fine. We have a beautiful family. Still, something was missing, right? Now, okay, we are settled. Like we have a house with this, and that. What is next? And what are those? Again, the plan. What is the plan? What is the next? What is coming next, right? So I become like very like sad because the reality hit up my face, and so I moved to Canada. I didn't know people here. It's only my husband's family, no friends, no Brazilian friends, no nothing, right? No sun. Oh my gosh,
it's cold.
What I'm gonna do now? And so I was really sad, and my friend told me, Grace, do you want to like visit a church? Like, do you need a community, right? Like, you need like people around you to support you. Blah, blah. I said, yeah, you're right. So she took me to New City Baptist Church, and the way that those people were preaching the gospel, I was like, hold on, I never thought like, and nobody like told me those things, and so this new opportunity, this new gospel, new thing, new life, right? And I really saw Christ in those people, and I was attended for 1 year, and still making questions because I really, truly, in my mind, I wanted to understand. But one thing is, maybe the heart, it was not changing in a way for me to understand, because I was blind in a way of not recognizing that I was a sinner. A sinner in a way that I was not doing what God wants for me and to me. And I mean, I had the family, fine. I got married, fine. I had the baby, fine. But still, it was something missing. It was something that not giving me the full peace and anyways. So one day, after attending for 1 year, one day at Palm Sunday,
Okay.
the pastor, he was preaching about Romans chapter 8, and talking about sin and how we react to sin, and how you acknowledge yourself as a sinner, and how Jesus, he died on the cross for you, and he lavished and he cleaned up all your sins. And I've said, hold on. So this Jesus, the poor Jesus that I thought about it,
Storyteller.
he is the one that died for me. And okay, hold on, this is too hard to understand. So at the end of the sermon, and I talked to the pastor, and he said to me, yes, Grace, he cleansed up your sins, and you just need to believe in him. Because still being married and having a family was not enough to give me that peace, because I was feeling guilty in a certain way, feeling guilty that I didn't grow up with my parents, and missing that love from my parents, and in some way hating them because they rejected me, and all those guilt, all those resents inside your heart, right? So after that day, when I truly understood that Christ died for me, and it doesn't matter what I do, it doesn't matter if I sin today, I will sin tomorrow, I will sin next week. He died for me. It's the fact. It's finished, right? So I came home really happy. Thank you for loving me when nobody did. Thank you for forgiving me when nobody did. So that Jesus that I said, it was a poor guy. He died for me. He was a savior of my life, right? So since then, everything becomes very clear, and all those paths and all those people that came through my life and everything, I see that it was really a plan. He has a plan for each one of us, right? And becoming pregnant and having a child, and I truly understand now it's an unconditional love. That beautiful love that he has for me, it transferred to my son. And now I understand, okay, that love, that understanding, it comes from God. So there is hope. You just need to find your way, make your plan, and look for people to help you and support you. Don't be alone. You're not alone.
I'm very happy to have met you, Grace. Thank you for coming.
And besides just being able to love her family and love that love she really wants. She wants others to thrive in community. So she's part of one of the churches that's in our First Response Network. So we have a number of churches that have pregnancy support teams in the community, so that any of our families that really feel like their family's broken, their family is either absent or they're here alone, or maybe they're a newcomer to Canada, and they know if they're going to have this baby, they want their child to grow up in a community of aunties and uncles, and they want to be in a safe, wholesome, helpful community where there is going to be people showing value to them and their family, and just giving them the honor and this respect and treasuring their family as we want God, in God's eyes, how every person should be treasured. So the beautiful thing is that Grace, along with other members of her church, they've been involved in helping people move maybe out of a shelter into a new place. They've been involved in throwing that baby shower for somebody that doesn't have family. They've been involved in just welcoming moms and dads and their children into community, so that they know that they've got friends. So that
and this is a paid job or volunteer?
These are all volunteer positions.
Jesus came to serve people, right? He didn't come to be served. So we all we're willing to serve
So
others.
you're washing the feet, are you?
And they invite others to come and join them. And what's so beautiful
Yes.
is that it's not a matter that somebody is, being an object of charity, but somebody is being welcomed into community.
Yes.
And in the same way that Grace has spoken about several families that have welcomed her into her life, they are a Canadian family that wants to make sure that that people are welcomed and that they know that they're loved and that in Christ there's a big family.
Amen.
Amen.
Amazing.
I think that's a good place to call it.
Very good.
Yeah. Grace, thank you for coming. It was my honor to meet you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
No problem.